GM. So, a couple of things. I'm gonna talk about Bonk because obviously it's the parabolic uptrend at the moment, but also want to look at Solana. So, Solana, Injective, and Link. I talked about how you want to really keep an eye on these as your will they break out and hold, or will they come back and reject? So here's Solana. Solid breakout. Many people will call that a confirmed breakout. They're going to have their targets set for higher. However, I'm always skeptical of that. This would set up nicely now for just a big rejection, to be honest. 80 is where the first kind of real resistance comes in. It was the February, March lows that hasn't been retested yet. Depends. I mean, I'm overall bullish Solana for the next cycle. I think it can contain and continue and sustain narratives, but I do think eventually the markets, I think there's going to be a sharp rejection on Sol at some point because it's following pretty closely to what Ethereum did in the last cycle. So Ethereum 2020. Solana's like, and it makes sense because the narrative people are talking about is that Solana is the Ethereum of this cycle. It's the high growth layer one with all the ecosystem development. Makes total sense, right? And so people are, it's trading the same. And if it's going to trade the same as ETH did last cycle, it's going to have a 40% pullback, at least, around this time. So far from being bearish, I'm just sitting and thinking, well, with a little bit of patience, then we can load the boats when Solana goes down 40%. Now, it might go to $100 first and then drop back to 60. If so, still a great time to buy because price change, not price. Don't get hung up on where the price is right now. You have to trade based upon opportunity. And there's no opportunity here in getting long. Like buying spot, I mean. I long this breakout, but buying spot, no. After some kind of significant correction, give the market some time to cool off. And also, maybe not, by the way. Everyone is sort of saying, oh, well, any kind of trader's like, oh, we're going to have a deep correction, right? So I'll just wait until there's a deep correction, and then I'll load the boats up when we go for the next leg, right? Well, maybe, or a lot of people are saying something like this, just a nice decline, and we get long. Maybe. I think maybe at the end of this, maybe it's just a fast, brutal shakeout, and then it just starts to grind up again. And away we go. And you might say, well, how does that work? Like, I mean literally like a 2-week correction, say in January, and then we just grind up again. And the reason that would be so painful for people is because they would get wrecked on this leg. They wouldn't get a retest like this, like they want. They wouldn't get a sweep of the lows like they want. They wouldn't get a accumulation range like they want. And they would have to buy higher. And we know that people are not good at buying higher. And then next thing, it's broken out to new highs. And they've missed it. I think that's one of the main patterns you want to study for the next cycle. It depends how short and how sharp the first sell-off is, right? We might get something like this. We have a sharp sell-off and you've loads of time to load the boats up. But everyone's looking at this and waiting for this because this is what happened last cycle. Right? It's recency bias. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more of a quick shakeout. I think the ETH chart from last cycle was kind of like this. It pretty much was, right? is like this, right? Grind it up, sharp sell off. That was the bottom. Now we did get a retest, but it was 2 weeks later. Would people have bought it? Probably not. Then higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low. Boom, new highs. Away we go. Upwards consolidation. The next thing, fucking ETH's at 1200, and everyone was like, "Oh, I never got a chance to buy it at 300." Yeah, you did. You were just too afraid. COVID lows is the perfect example. I'm not saying we're going to have a COVID crash, but if you have a full retracement or a big correction, then it just grinds up. This is the wall of worry, right? This is the Wall Street cheat sheet. This is the disbelief rally. Slides down a slope of hope, climbs up a wall of worry. And why would that happen? That will happen if big players don't need to get accumulated. Like they don't need to accumulate more, sorry. So say Sol, for example, if the big players have, their bags well filled, and it's just a leveraged flush, and they start to accumulate on the way back up, then it might just grind, and away it goes. There's so much hype around this cycle that I see people saying, it's not going to be that simple, everything's not just going to go up, and I think a lot of stuff's going to underperform. It's like, no, I actually think the opposite. I think stuff's going to perform way more than you think, and you're going to miss it because you won't get an entry. It's runaway markets. Right? So, when we get the first big correction, don't revise your targets lower. If you're waiting for a 40% correction and we get 37, 36, 34, look very seriously at, is this the bottom? Look for your volume, liquidations, divergences. Meanwhile, bonk is flying. We're going to hit 1 billion most likely. GM to all the bonk maxis. Where do we get in on that original trade? Fucking beautiful trade if I do say so myself. It was over here. Got in there. Stop below the impulse. So anyone who's in on that bonk trade is 16-hour profit. Expect to see some nice winners. Me personally, I've been trading it, adding, taking profit. I talked about this yesterday, this pattern, and it played out pretty well, right? Deviated above slightly, came down and held below. Looked a bit messy, but still, same thing. Upwards, sloping, compressing. It's a really good example of how, if you want to see a pattern like this, you might not see the exact parallel or perfectly formed pattern you want to see. You have to be able to squint and see between, read between the lines essentially. So for me, that played out quite nicely. And I mean, I've got the black line here. That's at 1 billion market cap. So where's my CoinGecko? It's at 865 at the moment. Yeah. So another, 15%? Wait, have I got this wrong? Is it even higher to get to 1 billion? Well, it depends. Fully diluted is already over, but market cap, billion. Okay. So it needs to go another 15% roughly. Maybe even 16, 17%. Interesting. So let's say it's 15%, 16%. Maybe 1 billion's up there. I must have calculated it wrong. 1 billion market cap. So bonk's going to keep bonking, is it? Let's see. What I expect from here? Probably more of a corrective consolidation. Down. Down. And then away. Final leg. That's what I would expect there. Draw a simple trend line across it. Wait for it to take people out once or twice. Fill in the gap. come back up, consolidate there. If that happens, that's a pretty clear sign of where we're going next. It might just blast off from here, right? When you get to these later stages, it leaves loads of gaps behind because they're gonna fill later. Don't worry. It's gonna be fun to watch bonk unwind, because yes, this is just a trade. No, nobody who's trading against you thinks bonk is the fucking future of finance. When it's over, you're going to see a 20% candle almost right away, and you're going to follow it up with a couple of weekly candles taking it down 40%. And then eventually it'll slowly decline 60, 70. So right now I think like that, and most people think like that, which actually means we have fuel to go higher. I'm never going to forget that, but there is a point at which people will forget that can happen. This is just the crazy nature of markets. And usually it's when it does something different. So if everyone's talking about $1 billion, of course we might pull up before it like we are now and just crash. Definitely possible. Or it might go way beyond that. Right? If it goes, instead of $1 billion, if it goes to 1.2 or 1.3 or 1.4, people are going to say, oh, wait a minute, is bonk going to 2 billion? And then boom, you wake up tomorrow, it's at 700 million. So this will be a fun one to watch and to play, but you need to keep one eye on the exits. Bonk is not a coin you want to be sitting in when the music stops. So, GM, enjoy the 17-hour winner that you're currently in. If you got in last week, take some profits. I've already taken off some profits. I've re-added. I'm short-term trading it. I've got a quarter of my original position on, which is sitting now at whatever 5-hour profit plus the profits I've taken. I'm happy with bonk. Please do the same. Don't fucking round trip the whole thing. Yeah? Alright. GM. See you all later on the live stream.